We're going to be painting a snail. You can download the reference photo in the link below, trace out or sketch out your picture, and then we will paint together. Let's go. I have our snail sketched out. Here's our reference photo. I want to show you the paper we're using today. I love Arches watercolor paper. And this is a very cute little pad of Arches paper. It is 7 by 10, and I think this is just an adorable little size that can be perfect for these single motif paintings. I was inspired for us to do a snail together because as we paint, as we develop as artists, I like the reminder that slow is fast, slow growth is good growth, and a snail is the perfect metaphor for that. I also love how they carry their homes on their back. There's something very sweet about that. I did teach this in my in-person class at my home last night. And then this morning, I walked to a local coffee shop that I enjoy having coffee at sometimes. As I was leaving the coffee shop, there was a cute little snail on the step. Let's get started. I did paint this cute snail last night, and I want to show you what I did to give you an idea of where we could be going. You can paint this shell. His shell is actually I don't know. I don't know a lot about snails, but what I can tell you is they look pretty either gray or brown in real life. So you could kind of go with that color if you wanted to. Or you could think about trying to do one shade on that shell. So just do one color and then find the different variances in that color. It's a great little exercise to keep yourself in one color and see if you can find all of the shades, all of the tones in that color. So this is a great opportunity to do that. I really only worked with 3 colors in this picture. I worked with the violet of the shell in all of the different shades I could get the violet. I worked with a Windsor blue. I believe that's the color I used for the body. And I used that violet for the shadow. I did use a light amount of permanent rose for the background. I may or may not do those same colors here. We'll just have to see. I, in some ways, want to get a little brown, I feel like. So I might be experimenting with the burnt umber tonight. We'll have to see what happens. So think about what colors you might want to make your snail, and let's get started. If you want to begin with me, you're going to need your paints, a palette for mixing, and your brushes. When we begin, I know that I want to put down a light shade of whatever color I want the shell to be. I'm going to go ahead and try this little burnt umber color. And got a little bit of black here, so I kind of want to get that off. And I'm going to pick that burnt umber back up. I'm going to start with taking the burnt umber all over the entire shell. I've been doing a lot of research on Hilma af Klint, the Swedish abstract artist, recently. And she painted many spirals and was very drawn to the imagery of the spiral that happens to be present on snails, among other things. So it made me extra drawn to this particular imagery. And while I'm letting that initial light wash dry for the snail, I'm going to think about what color do I want to make the body of our cute little snail? I did go ahead, I don't know if you can see this really well on the video or not, but I did just kind of try to get as much detail into the body of my snail as I could. Since I'm going brown on the shell, maybe I'll pick up this violet that is already on my palette here. And let's make him violet. When I said let's make him violet, did anyone else think of Willy Wonka? Violet, you're turning violet. It's a dark movie, I think. If you really think about it, it's kind of a dark movie. But I remember watching it as a kid, the Gene Wilder version. I haven't seen the new version. Have you? I'm trying to keep a light amount of water on my brush as I bring in this really light, watered down amount of pigment. And the reason why I'm doing that is so that it will dry faster. That's my preference, is just I can get a really smooth color here. Even. I'm really going for an even color, an even light color. There was in the reference photo that I pulled, there wasn't a shadow on this, but I am going to put a little shadow in. The reference photo I used last night was slightly different, and there was a cute little shadow. I'm going to put that in on this one, even though I don't see it. I'm going to make it happen. And I want to encourage you to do that same thing too. It will give it more depth. The shell is the color, the light color that I would like it to be to start. I'm going to do a mono color on that shell using the brown, using it in the different shades. I'm going to switch brushes. I'm going to move to my round 6. I was using a round 16 just to cover a lot of surface area at one time. And I'm coming into my burnt umber. And I do on this shell, I see lots of different colors, a little bit of pink, a little bit of white, but I really want to make this a practice. And if you can try this too, I want to encourage you to try it, but just attempt trying to keep the shell all one color, but different shades of that color. It is a great exercise, a great skill builder. So what I see some dark spots on the shell here. And I'm just going to bring those in. I also see a pretty rich spiral here. This line is dark and rich and gives us a lot to work with. And out here, the thicker line right here, pulling that together. Let's see where else I see a thick line. See, it will get smaller over here and over here. And I'm just pulling the spiral line around here. I'm going to just begin making some lines, later lines here while I still have pigment on my brush. These lines are not super dark. I can always come back and darken them up. Remember, in watercolor, we go light to dark, light to dark. We can always always go darker. We cannot always go lighter. I was telling my class last night, the women that came to my home for a watercolor class, that I thought that this was going to be super easy. And I don't want to lie to you. This is not actually the easiest subject matter to paint. There are a lot of details here. See these lines? I'm just going back and forth really lightly with my brush, back and forth, back and forth. And I'm doing that to ensure the detail. Just back and forth. Back and forth. Again, here we go. I'm making some lines thicker. Some of these have a little swirl, like they see how they kind of. There's more lines closer to the top and it gets tapers in a little less. So here you can see that the lines are starting to give the shell shape and depth. But there's a lot going on that you can see in this reference photo here. It's darker back here. I'm going to need to darken it up back there. It's darker over here and along the sides. And because I'm not doing any of the other colors that I see, I need to bring the depth in purely through the different values of my brown. So what I will do next, I want to get a little bit darker and bring these darker lines in. And they do extend all the way to the swirl. Although I didn't entirely sketch it that way, I do want to capture that. actually come all the way out in some cases. A little bit of wiggle here. The shape, trying to get the shape right of the swirl and really bringing these along. I don't need to put every line in. I want to bring in the illusion of that line. So now I want to get a little bit of water on my brush. I'm mixing it around. And I want to bring in a little shadow that I see. Some of the shadows that I see. There is this one shadow back here, right, that I really just want to bring that back here and into the realm. I'm going to add more water because I want this to be lighter back here. So I wanted to keep it darker over here and bring more water in over here as we come on down. So I'm just adding more water. I want it to be less pigment and just lighter. And there. So you can see there's this highlight area in here. Now I want to darken this up a bit. And I do want to bring in, I do see it's a little darker here. So I'm going to just bring it dark along this side, bring that swirl in. So it's showing the shape a little bit more as we bring that in. Picking up a little bit more water. And I see it happening here as well. And I don't want to be afraid of this shape. So I am bringing it all the way around where I see it. And I see a little bit of shade happening here. So, and that is starting to come alive in the way that I would like it to come alive. I do want to darken up some of this other part on the lavender. Rinsing my brush off, I'm coming over and I'm picking up my lavender. I'm going to bring a little bit more pigment onto my palette. I know it's pretty dark, and I'm going to have to actually darken this up a lot over here, but I also know that I have my shell is wet, and I do not want the purple to bleed into the brown, so I'm going to kind of bleed that a bit. I see a highlight right here, dark, so I'm bringing that in. Kind of dark right here. Get a little bit there. And over here. I'll line this like that. In this picture, I can't exactly see where the light is coming from, and we don't have a shadow to give us much context to that. So I'm going to just go by as much of what I can see on the photo as I can. Darkening it up down here. And as you're doing this, if it seems like it's going super easy for me, I just want you to remember I did this one last night, okay? So I have a little bit more context to what I'm doing. It can be very fun to do a lesson or an exercise more than once and to get a feel for what the subject matter is like, what you really want it to look like. Do you want to change a color? Do you want to try a different technique? All of those things can be done by experimenting with the same lesson more than once. I'm curious, have you done more than one tutorial with me yet? I have done a lot and I want to know what your favorites have been so far and what would you like me to paint more of? I don't know about you, but that line seems a little harsh, a little sharp right here. So I'm picking up more water, just water, and I'm taking it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and just I did add a little bit more color by by doing that violet into that highlighted area that I'm trying to keep, but it's really okay. So we're getting there with our little snail here. I do want to give it a little background. And I'm trying to decide, do I want to do a yellow background? I think I do. I did pink on the last one. I think yellow could be really beautiful. I'm going to take the Windsor yellow and maybe I'm going to mix in a little Candom free. And add a whole lot of water and begin to bring that in. Oh, yes, I am already liking the way this is beginning to look. Now, I taped off my edges so that I will have a nice border. And in doing that, you don't have to give this picture a background color. But here's the thing, you want to lay down the background color before you put your shadow in, or else it just looks weird. I don't have a great way to explain how or why that particularly happened. But I'm telling you, it will be a little weird if you try to do the shadow and then put the background down over top of the shadow. I'm just moving this around so I can get precise with my I went pretty bright with this yellow. I wasn't trying to do that. I guess I really wasn't thinking too much as I was putting it down, and I'm enjoying how it's turning. What do you think? Fun, it's bright, the brighter background than I was really expecting to go with. And I'm pretty pleased with how it makes our little snail just pop. I don't know about you. It's really hard for me to have a favorite color. Sometimes I'll think I have a favorite color, but what I've noticed in watercolor is that I do have colors that I favor, but they're all of them in different ways. For instance, I do love yellow, but of my yellows, I lean towards the Windsor yellow and the Candom free yellow in my Windsor deck. I call it a deck. What I really mean is in my set. I use a lot of Oracle decks in my writing, so I think I refer to it that because I'm just so used to saying deck. If you wonder why is she saying that, that's why. My brain works in mysterious ways. I often say words I don't entirely mean. I replace the wrong word. Something my mom does. And when my mom does it, it drives me crazy. So I try not to do it, or I try to correct myself quickly because I don't want to drive you crazy. All right, look how fun this is already turning out. Are you loving this as much as I am? Our snail. What a cutie pie. Okay. Let's see. What do we want to do next? I want to make this shadow of the shell darker, which means I need that violet, Windsor violet. Yeah. And I will pull that in right here. This color. And oh, it's got a little spot here. I'm adding water. I'm just going to keep adding water here so I can lighten this up. I do want to kind of bring this darker around here. Giving our snail a little depth. I'm going to darken this spot on the head up. Being careful not to touch my yellow. It will bleed. I have not hit it with the hairdryer. Don't want him to bleed there. Yeah. Imagine. Pretty dark right here. Just letting it come along. Now, I'll pretend that there's a highlight on the tail right there. Let's see, what do I want to do next? Okay. I think I want to kind of just bring that color actually all in here. I'm going to begin making these little dark wine. I'm following what I outlined from the reference photo, what I traced on. This is a little bit tedious. I will fast forward for you through here. And our snail is really coming along. I want to bring in a little bit more detail into this shell. See this dark kind of squiggly. Kind of bringing this down. And I do want to make it darker over here. I think that I want to give the shadow, I want to make it this permanent rose color that I already have on my palette. I'm just going to bring that color along here. And voila, we are about done. This is a little simple snail tutorial. And the best part, the most fun part, taking the tape off. So satisfying. And the last piece of tape. And we've got those nice crisp lines and our cute little snail photo. I hope that you had as much fun as I did doing this snail. And I would love for you to share with me your pictures and how they went for you. Thanks so much for painting along with me today.